Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 254. Been another great, glorious week. Very grateful for you taking time out of your week to stop on by, trying to help you move your photography forward, and of course, inspire you to take those moments and share them with others, because your photographs can make and will make a difference. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford Camera, bedfords.com, for the great support they provide all of us. Lots of stuff going on there, their website. Check it out. And also make sure to, if you need help, give them a call, drop them a note. And when you're making that purchase, whether it be online, in person, make sure you use that MOOSE special discount. It's going to save you real money, as well as free shipping over $99. And for a lot of states, no sales tax. My good friend in Bedfords, bedfords.com. Thank you guys for sponsoring the podcast. Let's get right into this week's topic. Paragraph of words. Actually, the whole thing is, think of that photograph, everything you're putting in that viewfinder, as a paragraph of words. Now, why am I mentioning this? Why do we even kind of deviate from any photographic terms? Remember, we're talking about visual storytelling. We are trying to, you could say, take advantage of that photograph is worth 1,000 words. That'd be a hell of a paragraph, but that saying really is kind of to the heart of what it is to be a photographer. We're trying, and sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but we're trying to communicate all that we see and feel that moment we go click in that very unique location or that unique situation or special moment. Now, if you had to take that moment and write 1,000 words rather than taking a photograph, you might have to think about the words you select more carefully. You might have to place emphasis in different places, but that's really no different than what you're doing with your camera. We're just not going to put letters down. And most of us are recording everything with X's and O's, but that's not what I'm talking about either. No. So, paragraph of words. Couple thoughts. First of all, some of you might be saying, hey, Moose, we've seen your writing, and you are comparing your photograph to words, there's a misconnect there. Yeah, right. I understand. Not the king of grammar. That's not exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe why I like photography. I don't have to worry about, is it T-O or T-O-O, or is there a comma? No, what I'm talking about is we are used to communicating with each other verbally. And a lot of times we're doing it by text these days. And we're using different ideas to bring out the emotion to just those words. I want to reverse that a little bit. So let's start off with the basic idea. A sentence. How many subjects can a sentence have? It can only have one subject. Now, it could have adjectives and adverbs and all that kind of stuff, but there's just one subject. The same holds true to our photographs. Many a times I look at a photographer's image and they say, well, I wanted to show this and I want to show that and I want to talk about this and talk about that. And I look at the photograph and there are definitely those different items in that photograph. But then when I ask, what is the subject? A lot of times the photographer goes quiet, doesn't know how to answer that question. When you look in the viewfinder, do you ask yourself the question, what is the subject? If you were writing a sentence of words, you'd have to know that subject. And then you would pick the words before and after all around that subject, be it in a sentence or a paragraph, to describe, talk about, paint a picture of what that subject happens to be. A lot of photographers look for a lot of different kind of rules, guidance, ideas on how to do that arranging of elements. Well, this is just another way of getting past those different kind of rules. So you tap into something much more important. That's your heart. Because that's really where the great photographs come from. It's inside your heart. The technical stuff, anybody can get that. Seriously. It's the hard stuff that's so hard. That's the big disconnect. Now, if we moved beyond the sentence and the subject in the sentence, and if you look at a basic structure of a paragraph, yes, a paragraph can be just one sentence, and it's got to be powerful. Your photograph can be the same way. But a lot of paragraphs are multiple sentences, all coming back and talking about that first sentence, being wrapped up for that paragraph with the last sentence. Can we use the same basic idea and structure in our photography? And of course you can. When you look in that viewfinder and you think about that subject, and you think about how you want to talk about that subject in your photograph, what if you were to think about adverbs and adjectives and verbs? How can you use light as a verb to move the viewer of your photograph around that frame to see the subject? How can you use an adjective to bring excitement or emotion or drama to your subject? Can you use a lens, go black and white? Many different possible tools as an adjective to bring excitement and further elaborate about that subject. And can you use that whole area in the viewfinder, the vertical and horizontal axis, use all of that, 100% of that, as a stage for your subject, or a paragraph of words bringing the viewer back to your subject and telling him your story about that subject, your emotional response to that subject, your excitement at seeing that and discovering that subject. Now, I'm not sure if that makes sense to you, but this is really kind of a lot of what I do in my own photography. As I arrange those elements, I'm always asking myself, what is the subject? And then I'm building around that subject using everything I've talked about on this podcast and the website and my books and everything else I can think of just to bring your eye to the photograph. I posted a photograph from Monument Valley where if you were to look at that photograph, it right off the bat breaks the quote-unquote rules of composition because the whole top half of the frame is nothing but God beams. The bottom half is no more than the east and west Minton and Merrick Butte. And if you were to cover up either part of the frame, the top half or the bottom half, neither one of them by themselves would stand up. It wouldn't work. But together, and the way that the God beams bring your eyes down, go around the horizon, come back up, your eye keeps moving around to what the subject is. And what's the subject? It's good morning. You might think the subject's supposed to be Monument Valley or some other element, but it's just a celebration of the morning. And if you don't know the photograph I'm talking about, just head to my Instagram account. You'll see it. Now, I understand, easy for me to talk about and do these things because I have been doing it for so long. If you're really brand new to this stuff or been doing it for a while, you might have heard lots of different things because there's so much out there about what you should and should not do as a photographer. But the one thing that you have that no other photographer has, no one, and that's your own passion and emotion and personality. You are unique. That in itself makes your photography unique. So if you use the CAN formula for all those different things you see out there, me included, then you're just being what? A cheap knockoff? A clone? That's no good. You need to be yourself, be unique. Now, if we go and take this paragraph of words analogy to our photograph another step forward. So let's look at that Y and X axis, and everything in the viewfinder we're going to consider 100% or one entire paragraph. Now, if you look at your photograph, and let's say the top third of your photograph, 30%, top third of that photograph has nothing in it. I'm not talking about no elements. I'm talking it has no redeeming value, nothing that brings your eye back to the subject, doesn't do anything about the stage. It does nothing. That 30%, if you were to relate that photograph to a paragraph of words, and you had a paragraph of words and you were to remove 30% of the words in that paragraph, would someone understand what you wrote in that paragraph? Now, to me, it's a real simple analogy because a paragraph is normally, as I remember, it's supposed to be a complete thought. Yeah, I know. There's people laughing at that, looking and reading my website at the moment, but paragraph is supposed to be that complete thought. Isn't our photograph supposed to be a complete thought? Maybe even one photograph, a complete story, a capture of a memory that everybody would understand. If you start looking at your photograph, starting with what's the subject, and realizing that you want to use a bunch of different words to talk about that subject, and translate the words into light, gesture, color, focal length, position, negative and positive space, formal, informal balance. The list goes on and on. But rather than trying to remember all those terms or to always put something in a, rule of thirds kind of world, what if you arranged elements thinking of those elements in that frame as words? Beautiful, gorgeous, dark, happy, romantic. What can you as a photographer better relate to? The math or the emotion? The words or the numbers? If you were to converse in just photographs, could you just converse in photographs? If you have to take a photograph and then explain it to somebody, what's that tell you about the way in which you arrange the elements and perhaps look to that photograph as a paragraph of words? So my goal of this is not to confuse you, but help you kind of look at that viewfinder not as, let's just say something to conquer, but something to team up with. Words which we are all very familiar with, that we use continually, might just help you move past the numbers and into the realm of emotions. You need to not think about that photograph. You need to feel that photograph. And this is just my way of, you could say, getting past that. When I started out in photography, trying to, for myself, make the elements in that viewfinder come together so they do one thing, and that's to reach out and grab your heartstring. Because when you do that, you know you have won. We're not talking about anything about perfection here. Take it from this grammar illiterate person. Perfection's not what we're looking for, just simple communication. Hey, we've got Photoshop World coming up here, folks. I've got 3 classes. I have got them all, they're just about polished. I've got some more thoughts from shooting this week I need to add in there, but hey, I hope you take time to come by my classes. lot of, you could say, podcasts being illustrated. In the meantime, get out there and shoot. Think of that paragraph of words and remember to make every click your story.